everyone, welcome to another Halloween science video from the Children's Museum of New Hampshire. My name is Meredith and I am sharing two more experiments with you today. One is great for older scientists or grown-ups to do as a demonstration and invite some conversation. And the next is a fun one for all ages. Fizzing, bubbling, and foaming is always a good time. So the first experiment I'm going to share we are calling Spooky Sparks. And for this experiment, you will need some steel wool. And this is kind of a coarse grade of steel wool. If you have a finer grade of steel wool, that'll actually work even better, but this is what I happen to have, and it works in its own way. And you need a pan that could go in the oven that can withstand some spooky sparks. And you need a 9-volt battery. So for this experiment, we are creating some some sparks and some fire. So if you would like to do this experiment outside, that might be a good idea. Just maybe don't do it on a really windy day. I'm doing it in my house and I've practiced in my house and it's been totally fine. We haven't set off any smoke detectors yet. So for spooky sparks, what you're going to do is spread out your steel wool so it's really, really thin, and then carefully place it in your container. And then what you're going to do is take your 9-volt battery, and where there are these two, I always call these buttons when I'm working with kids, the two pieces on the top, buttons, where those are, you're going to touch those down on your steel wool, and you will get some spooky sparks. Oh, that was a great one. So it takes a little getting used to get your sparks. But what's really neat is the sparks travel through the steel wool, and you can see how they move and how they go. And it is very cool once you kind of get the hang of it. So what we're doing, and I'll get way more into the science behind this on our blog, if you want to check that out. But what we're doing is we are creating a circuit through the battery and the steel wool, and that's what this reaction is. This reaction is fire to the circuit, and we're watching it travel all the way through. A fair warning, if you have a finer grade steel wool, you will hardly need to touch your steel wool before there are sparks all over the place. This one is kind of nice because we're able to see it a little bit slower. So if you want to learn more about the science behind this, again, please check out our blog where I get much more into why this happens and how it works. So that is Spooky Sparks. I think you can see why we want grown-ups to do this, or much older scientists to do this with grown-up supervision. If you happen to do it with your finer grade steel wool, it's going to kind of look like a lot of sparks. As you saw with this one, they will eventually die out and run their course, so you'd never need to pour water all over it to make the sparks stop. But if you'd like to have some water nearby, that's probably a good lesson in spooky spark safety. So our next experiment, this one is good for all ages. This is a classic baking soda and vinegar experiment, but we made it a little bit more fun and a little more Halloween-ish. So this is a ball made to look like a pumpkin that is just made of baking soda paste. So to make this, you just mix baking soda and water until you have a material that you can form into a ball. There's no exact measurement for this. You just want to make sure you can kind of form it. You can do this right before you do the experiment, or you can do it the night before, and it'll actually harden and become like rock hard as a pumpkin, which is fun too. Either way is fine. It'll work the same. And then I added some yellow and red food coloring to make orange, and I just stuck a little piece of cardboard on the top to be the pumpkin's stem. So that is just baking soda and water with our cardboard and our food coloring. And then you want a little bit of vinegar, of course. With a pipette, if you have one, a paintbrush works too. So these are Fizzy Pumpkins. So all we're going to do is drip our vinegar on our baking soda pumpkin and watch it as it fizzes. And this will fizz for a very long time because that's a lot of baking soda. So you can watch your pumpkin fizz. It's a lot of fun. Keep going. It's kind of interesting. Eventually the food coloring will kind of wash off and you'll have mostly white, so you can talk about why that happens. And this is our classic chemical reaction where we're mixing an acid and a base and we're making carbon dioxide, which is the gas that this produces, and it's the smell. We get the smell and we can hear that carbon dioxide in the bubbles. So I'll talk a teeny bit more about this on the blog, but this one's pretty easy. And again, if you want to learn more about the reaction happening with spooky sparks, please check out our blog. We'll talk a lot more about the science there. And thank you for joining us for another some more Halloween science videos. And we hope you have a very happy Halloween.